Okay, so there are two sections of a proposal where you quietly win or lose the work. And these are the timeline and the fees. And I think most consultants rush both, and it shows. I've won proposals for one reason alone. I built a proper timeline and the other consultants didn't. And the way you present fees can add $20,000 to $40,000 to a project without a single extra hour of selling. So let me show you how I do it. This is one lesson from Proposal Mastery, which sits inside my membership for consultants, the trusted practice. In this one, I build a real timeline as a Gantt chart and then structure fees into options and talk through why each choice is there. You'll see the really small decisions that keep trust intact, like never dropping to a 99 at the end of a figure. Stick around to the end and I'll show you where to get the rest. Okay, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go through the timeline and then we're going to talk about fees as well. What we're not going to talk so much about is what to charge, because this isn't really what the course is about. You shouldn't be sitting down at this point and then trying to work out what you should charge the client. This should naturally emerge from the conversations you've already had. And you'll notice in the first video that we recorded that we already agreed what the broad range was, which is 45K to 75K. So this time it's very much about just zeroing in on what the options are, what are different ways we want to work with them, etc. But the timeline is what's going to come first. So let's go back to our proposal and let's find the right template for our timeline. So here's one we used earlier. So we can just move that up to here, delete everything that's in it, make sure there's no past references to clients. Honestly, there have been times where I have sent the wrong name to clients, and that's why I never ever send a proposal through without fully checking it. Okay, timeline. I think it's very important to include a timeline for your work. It takes a little more time to do, but it does reflect a level of professionalism and thought that many other people don't have. I'm going to move this up as well because I think it looks better up here. I think it's supposed to be up here. I don't know why it's so low down. And we get a rough range. There's software that can do this for you, and that's fine. I'll probably change it to something else. Estimated work schedule. Something like that, just so I'm not repeating the same word again. I think a title is good here. So we want to get in the weeds, but not too deep in the weeds. So what I like to do here is do it by the deliverable, being clear what the milestones are. So prioritize audience need. Oops, let's just capitalize it because I think that looks a little better. Kind of want these to hang in the middle of the cells. That's better. Okay. I just want to make sure these are all the same size too, which they are. Okay. So what does this include? And this is where we like to just make sure that we're highlighting what the steps are. Developing a list of relevant segments. So 1, 2, 3, 4. How many steps do we have? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 19 steps is going to be too much here. So we're going to combine them just a little. Again, combining them is fine. So I'm going to skip the first step because I don't think that's going to take too much time. Audience interviews, I think should be on there. Identifying segments and interviews and audience interviews. So when I think about how long this is going to take, again, this isn't a project management course, in which case this would be a bit different. I like to give it 3 weeks, but 4 is probably more realistic. Yeah. Okay. Identify audience needs. Undertaking audience survey. If feasible. Again, I just want to highlight it's not an essential thing, but it's feasible. So we can do this alongside this. It shouldn't really take too long to do a survey. User experience, research. Again, this is going to take a little more time. So probably that, I think. Deliverable. So I might just put that up here actually. Deliverable number 2, community strategy. Yeah, let's just make sure that's reflect. Over time, you get better and better just estimating how long it takes. And one challenge you do have is the time it takes you to do something and the time it takes the client to make everything work internally for you to do it can be very different. So you just have to be a little bit mindful of that and balance what makes sense. So we've got 6 steps here, so we can't do everything. But I do think setting goals is going to be important. A workshop. Setting community goals in workshop. So we don't have to wait for everything else to be done. This isn't dependent upon this. So we can probably do this in week 3 or week 2. If you can do things alongside other tasks, that's always good. Oops, wrong one. Needs depends on that. Positioning depends on the audience needs. Selecting the experience, roles and responsibilities can also be done outside of this. Establishing community roles and responsibilities. What else we do is try and make sure we're not doing too many things in the same week, but I think that's probably fine. Okay, positioning. I'm going to skip this one because I think it's inherent in the first one. Community positioning and benefits. Community positioning and benefits. This requires the audience research to be done, so let's do that. Selecting the community experience. Selecting the experience takes time. There's a lot of separate steps in that, and I don't want to go too deep into that. So I just want to give them an overview that this takes time, and probably once we've done the surveys, that's probably 4 weeks. Yeah, I think that's probably right. But then there's a lot of things we're doing in week 3. Survey, UX research, setting goals. That's probably a bit too many things in week 3. Again, this doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It's more to give the right idea than be completely right the first time. What else in the strategy? Roadmap and action plan. This shouldn't take too much time. Once you have all the other steps done, it should be good. Okay. It's going to be pretty clear. We're going to need some more rows here. That's not a problem. Let's just make sure that it all fits. Another thing to make sure is that all of the rows are the same size. There we go. And just move it down here. That's better. Okay. Deliverable. What's the next one? Community platform. So for the community platform, we need the community experience decided. So we're already working from here, essentially. Implementing the experience. Configuration. Wait, what was actually included here? Designs and configuration. Designing the community experience. I think that's probably 2 weeks max. I might just overlap it a little so we can do some of these things at the same time. Figuring and set up the community experience. This should only really take 2 weeks max because I'm assuming they're not going to use a very expensive one. If I'm wrong about that, we'll have to change it, but I do think we should just make a note of that. Again, just squeezing this in a little, adjusting it so we've got the right alignment at the top. Cool. Okay, deliverable 4, what was that? Playbook and templates. Community playbook and template. So this, you only really need the strategy done, the action plan done. So this can probably just be a 2-week thing here. Possibly 3. Oops, I don't think that we need the word delivery there. Scripts, resources, and templates. I don't like having too many, but then all these aren't the same size. So we just make small adjustments just to make sure everything works. This really shouldn't take too much time. Deliverable. And the last one is training. Let's just quickly go back to see what we covered in training. Custom training workshops, on-demand courses. Okay. Custom training workshop. What was the workshop for? All stakeholders, 60 to 90 minutes. This is going to be more all staff. So I'm just going to make a note. All staff, all community stakeholders. So again, this isn't dependent upon something else. So again, just adjust these. So you might look for a more quiet week. So possibly around here. 3, positioning. So sometime around then might make sense. Add another couple of rows. And what was the next one? Training. Nope. Access to on-demand training courses. So this, as of before, we can provide almost straight away. So I think this is something that can be done in week 1. Again, you can try and have it neat where everything just flows into the other. I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really. Okay. Ongoing support. So I'm just going to add one more row. Mentoring, training, and implementation. Because if you remember, there were some things that we didn't cover, like ongoing support, coaching, and mentoring, ongoing training and mentoring support. So actually, there's a duplicate here, so I have to remove that. And let's just remove it from here and just drop that in here. Yeah, that's why you reread your proposal. It wouldn't have been the worst thing if I left it in, but they are different. I like having just to be on one row if possible. It's easier just to move these around than try and have multiple rows of text. So when does that begin? I think it should begin once the platform is ready. So this is where I have this. And because I'm aiming for 3 months, I'm going to put some stars here. And I'm just going to have this up a little bit and then include a note. Ongoing training and implementation for a minimum 3 months. And if we're not going to use row 13, let's just delete that. And then just expand this out. Okay, that's the timeline done. Usually at this phase, it's good just to look through it. We see that there's a lot more space 10 and 12, but I know the client wants to move quick. So that's why I'm leaving it in there. I think the bulk of the work we can get done by week 8, but now that I look at it, it does feel a little bit tight. So what I'm just going to do is just maybe adjust all these to the left. Oops, not like that. Just give it a little more time and space. And maybe just have one more week here. Just so there's a little bit more space. Okay, I did something wrong there, didn't I? What did I do wrong? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so just adjust it one more. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a lot. Well, you might want to just shift these to the left again. But then there's nothing else here, so just going to put that there. This looks like a more reasonable time frame to me. And then maybe just move these over one. Playbook as well. It's always tempting to be too ambitious, and I want to make sure we're not tackling too many things at once. And then we can look at this scope and be like, okay, does it make sense to have the custom training workshop here? I think the enthusiasm is going to be highest at the beginning, so we might try and do it towards the beginning. I'm just trying to think how busy it's going to get. Identifying segments. So this isn't too busy. So if we're doing a workshop here, it makes sense to overlap it with that, I think. Okay. And that is how it's done. That's the timeline done. It looks okay to me. Next, we're going to do fees. So let's do fees. Some people like to call it investment, but yeah. So breaking down the options, we already know roughly what we're going to charge because we gave them a range already. And so what I'm going to say is option 1, strategy only. Includes audience analysis and community strategy deliverables. And this will be 45,000. I don't know why, but I've always had good luck just like changing it to USD. Option 2, strategy and community training. Again, we'll just put these in bold or a little bit stronger. Strategy and training. So I want to be very clear what these are, what they include. These are the workshops. So this, let me see, 45, what's included in this? Custom. So that's one training workshop. That's going to take a couple of days research, a few days developing, a day delivering. So 5, 6, 7. And then access to on-demand courses as well. So this, I think, makes sense to be around 5340. Oops. Again, put USD so it's very clear what currency you're looking in. Strategy 3. Oh, I was meant to do actually. Ignore that. 1, strategy and implementation. Too light. Include all except training. You notice how there's a kind of weird thing there? I don't like that, so I'm just going to fix that to... What's the issue? I think it's here, right? There we go. So implementation is a lot of work. Yeah, so that includes needs, strategy, platform, and templates. Includes, yeah, that's probably more clear. It's needs, strategy, platform, and templates. Platform development. Again, one of the things I used to have early on is people would be quite confused about what the difference were with the different options. So that is a lot of work. But I also want a discount if they take both. This is probably where we're getting towards the 60. Let me see what's involved. Vendor management, experience. That's probably around a week, 2 weeks. Probably around another 12, 14K. Yeah. So let's just go with 58. Strategy implementation. Oops, let's put that to light again. Actually, maybe I'll just put as above. Strategy training is above, plus workshops, access to on-demand training resources. So this, what did I say, 14K, so probably around, again, a discount if they take all everything. Maybe 64 makes sense. 4870. What does this include? So they're going to ask more questions about this, but that's fine. We don't need to go into everything here. So I think we can probably go at 3150 EM per. One's what it's like per cat. Be clear about whether it's inclusive of any expenses. This doesn't really matter anymore because we don't travel to any of our clients. But yeah, this gives you an overview of the fees and how we create the options. Just try and be very clear about what options are and try to be clear which option you want them to go for. Obviously, you want them to take everything. I'm tempted to lower the price of that. So this seems, yeah, I'm kind of tempted to take this down a notch. Yeah, maybe just take that down to 42,000 and take that down to, then that creates a bigger gap. No, it's within the range that they discussed, but maybe, because what they might do is say, oh, the implementation is only 14K. Let's just go with that. But that doesn't really work for us because there's a discount for multiple options. So I'm tempted to put that down to 41, drop that and raise this. So 42, 58 and 64. So I want this one to be 62 actually, just so there's more of a temptation. If we're going to do that, we might as well just go with that. Maybe 63 and put that as 370. Okay, that's how we do it. This price, I think maybe just raise the fee for this as well. Yeah, so that seems good. We've now got the timeline, we've got the fees in place, and next step we can move on to about us and the proof. Hope you found this useful. So this is timelines of fees done in a way that raises the value of the project instead of shrinking it. This comes from Proposal Mastery, one of the 4 courses inside the Trusted Practice. One membership gives you indispensable consulting systems, proposal mastery, consulting foundations, and mastering stakeholder engagement, plus every new course the day it ships, and all the tools and templates I use on my real work, and a community of consultants running practices like yours. It's $950 a year, and you can cancel anytime. If this was useful, the full course goes much deeper. Join the Trusted Practice at the link below. I'll see you inside.